Crazy. The world hadn't even had time to catch its breath when the start of 2026 exploded like fireworks. In the first 20 to 30 electrifying seconds, a single announcement from Vogue shook the global fashion landscape. Two names from East Asia shot to the top, shattering old conventions and rewriting the map of global men's style. Wang Yibo Xiao Zhan. Two figures, one moment, and history was rewritten. That morning, it felt like time had stopped. The Vogue headlines spread like wildfire, copied, translated, and debated. Not just a list, but a name among the top 5 global men's fashion icons. The word icon, usually reserved for Hollywood elites and European aristocracy, was now wide open, and Asia was entering with confidence. For the industry, this was no small shock. It was an earthquake. For decades, men's fashion center of gravity revolved around Paris, Milan, London, and New York. But 2026 arrived with a bold message. A new era doesn't wait for permission. It brings with it different faces, stories, and boldness. Wang Yibo emerged as a symbol of modern precision. His style is sharp, minimal, and bold without being too shouty. Every step on the red carpet feels like a carefully choreographed effort, a balance between avant-garde and classic elegance. Vogue calls him a style architect, someone who builds a fashion identity from discipline and detail. He doesn't just wear clothes, he controls them. A black suit can transform into a futuristic statement on his body. Streetwear is elevated to high art. Yibo shows that masculinity doesn't have to be tough. It can be calm, precise, and deadly. Xiao Zhan, on the other hand, presents a narrative of contemporary emotion and romance. He brings a softness rarely given space on the global men's fashion stage. His flowing silhouettes, poetic colors, and aura captivate the camera without begging for attention. Vogue calls him the new face of empathy in global men's style. Xiao Zhan makes fashion feel human. Behind every editorial portrait, there's a story. There's vulnerability elevated into strength. He teaches that beauty isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, but echoes longer. When Vogue puts these two together on a top list, the message is clear. This wasn't about competition, but about constellations. Two stars with different spectrums lit up the same sky. Both represented a generation unafraid to push boundaries. The global reaction was unstoppable. Historic fashion houses raced to close ranks. Fashion editors shifted their perspectives. Global campaigns began to focus their lenses on the East. It was no longer a passing trend, but a structural shift. What made this moment even more wild was the context. They transcended old icons, Oscar-winning actors, style royalty, runway legends, not by copying, but by redefining standards. The world finally recognized that style doesn't have a single accent. In Asia, celebration turned into collective pride. Younger generations saw their reflections in the pages of Vogue. Dreams that once seemed far-fetched now seemed possible. Fashion became an inclusive global language. But behind the spotlight lay years of quiet work. Experimentation, criticism, failure, and the courage to remain authentic. Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan didn't emerge overnight. They were forged by time and a steadfast vision. Vogue, in its editorial, emphasized that true icons aren't just about clothes, but influence. How a single look can change the conversation. How one choice can open doors for so many. The beginning of 2026 was marked as a turning point. From the runway to the city streets, men's visual language changed. More fluid, bolder, more honest. Critics might ask, was this the peak or the beginning? The answer seems clear. This was the prologue. The world had just witnessed the first chapter. When the cameras closed and the magazine pages folded, the echoes lingered. In every inspiration born, in every boundary broken, the names of Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan would be invoked as sparks. And if you think this is just about fashion, think again. This is about representation, about who deserves to be seen, and about a broader future. Crazy, indeed. But that's how history moves. It doesn't ask for permission. It just leaves a mark. The beginning of 2026 will always be remembered as the moment the world finally turned to the East and said, "We see you." And from there was no turning back. But the story wasn't over, as its impact continued to seep into previously untouched spaces. Fashion academies began re-examining their curricula. Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan's names entered classroom discussions, not as celebrities, but as case studies in the power of identity and visual consistency. Behind the scenes of the industry, senior stylists acknowledged something they rarely spoke openly about. Global tastes had changed. What was once considered too soft, too experimental, or too Asian was now a new benchmark of boldness. Western media, too, was slowly shifting the narrative. It was no longer just an Eastern phenomenon, but a major player driving the direction. Cover after cover began to showcase a more diverse aesthetic, as if the world was finally allowing itself to evolve. For fans, this moment felt personal. They were witnessing not just the triumph of their idols, but also validation. That their tastes, their cultures, and their ways of expressing themselves were now standing on equal footing on the world stage. Most tellingly, Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan never declared themselves revolutionaries. They were simply being themselves. It was precisely from this calm that profound change emerged, slowly but unstoppably. Global men's fashion is now moving toward a more narrative direction. Every outfit is expected to tell a story. Every look conveys an attitude. This is the legacy they leave behind, that true style always has meaning beyond the fabric. The beginning of 2026 will forever be remembered in the archives of pop culture history. A point when a single domination crumbled and was replaced by a more equal cross-cultural dialogue. And perhaps, years from now, when new icons emerge, people will look back and say, "The change began here, when the world finally dared to acknowledge the faces that had been ignored." Because ultimately, Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan didn't just change the way men dress. They changed the way the world views who deserves to be called an icon. In many major cities, the change is palpable. Boutique storefronts are starting to boldly play with more fluid silhouettes. Advertising campaigns are showcasing a broader range of masculinity, and the public is no longer shocked by the elegant blurring of old boundaries. Young creators are using this moment as a stepping stone. They created without inferiority complexes, without comparing themselves to outdated standards. The world of men's fashion became a space for exploration, no longer a narrow box demanding uniformity. What remains now is an invisible legacy, the courage to be present as you are. A silent yet powerful message that true influence is born when one stands firm in one's own identity. And as time passes, one thing will always be remembered. The beginning of 2026 will not just be about who Vogue crowns, but about when the world is finally ready to change.